When we started NEXTGEN, we would buy into whole entire games with these 2 chips.
And now we are buying in for this many chips.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground then it go off. Yeah, hit the ground then it go off. Yeah, run it. Ooh, I really feel it's my time. Think it's my year. Yeah. I really feel it's my time. Think it's my.
I buy in for $2,000 in the biggest game I've ever played against my best friends Rosie and Jack. Usually we don't do this to avoid the awkward car ride silence. This is entirely for you guys. We're all waiting for the action main game live stream, but this second table's action too. 7 deuce game is on for $50 a head. One of the first hands I'm dealt is pocket 9s. I honestly have a superstition against playing my first hand dealt, but I immediately go for a 3-bet to 100 right off the bat. Big pot energy. I then proceed to immediately get 4-bet from Dylan in the big blind. Eric folds, and I know Dylan very well. He's a wildcard player. I give him action and make the call. Flop comes queen, jack, 10, all spades. He c-bets for 200. I'm dead to ace king, huh? Terrible spot, but I call one time. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. Dylan continues, this time for 400. I wish I'd folded a street ago. I make the fold. Then I just get thrown in my face as Dylan shows 7 deuce, no spade. I had him drawing dead, stone dead. I hate the first hand.
First hand for me is 8-7 of spades on the button. We are in the must-move game and looking to ease into this high-stakes session. Spoiler alert, that is not happening. Under the gun straddles to 25 here. The low jack calls and the hijack opens to 125. I make the call, the straddler calls, and the low jack calls. So we're off to a flop 4 ways, which comes 7-6 deuce, 2 diamonds, 1 heart. We somehow flop top pair, and it checks all the way to me. We want to protect our vulnerable top pair, so I bet a little over half pot for $330. And it folds to the hijack, who thinks about it before check raising all in for $14.50. Love being put all in on the first notable hand of the session, and this one is gross. He can definitely have sets, he can have overpairs, he can have us out-kicked too. The best case scenario is if he just has a big diamond draw, but you can see here that even in that case, we are still behind. So we make the fold and go down very quickly. Just lost a decent sized one, so, gotta come outside, take a quick little breather. Let's go back and battle. Here we have ace-6 of clubs on the big blind, looking to rebound from our $450 loss on hand number 1. Under the gun +2 opens to 30, and it folds to me. Now, $450 on hand 1 seems like a lot, but it's only 18 big blinds with the straddle on, so we're just on a high variance ride at these stakes. We make the call here and head to a flop of 9-6-5 with 2 diamonds, 1 club. We check, and +2 continues for $65. We've got a pair and backdoor clubs, we call. And the turn comes straight from hell. In a good way, it is the 6 of spades giving us trip 6s. I check again for deception, and +2 fires the magical second barrel for $200. This is a very dynamic board, and there's a lot to get value from in charge. Let's spring the trap now. I check raise to $600. He thinks about it and makes the fold. We take down a nice one though as we inch closer and closer to the main game.
About an hour into the must move, a seat opens up at the main game, and I am the first of the boys to pounce on the opportunity to play under the lights. The first hand we get involved with, we have ace-3 of spades. There's an open from John, and I 3-bet him next to act. It folds around to Seinfeld in the big blind, and he seems interested. He knows this is a big game for me, and he's an aggressive player. I could almost sense this 4-bet happening before it did. He raises to 300, folds back to me, and I just can't help feeling like I'm getting pushed around by him. I'm curious, but still give it up and fold, and turns out Seinfeld wasn't messing around after all.
I have ace-jack of hearts, and we're about to tango with our partner Rosie in this one. He raises a 35, and I make the call. You have to tread lightly against a Rosie open, ladies and gentlemen watching. Heads up to a flop with 2 of the best. It comes king, queen, 2, 2 hearts. Royal flush draw. I can't mess this hand up. I have the world. Rosie continues for 60. So much going on, I just make the call. The turn is gin. It's a 10. We pick up the most disguised net draw we had, and Rosie must be a mind reader because he checks it to us. I want it all, Rosedale. I bet $140. Come on. I'm full of shit. You know it. No, Rosie's too good. He folds, and we take down a pot smaller than I wanted it to be.
I had pocket eights here. Nice hand, Frankie.
Next hand, I have ace queen, first act. I raise to 30. A friend, Snoopy in the cutoff, makes the call, as does Eric in the big blind. Flop comes queen 8-2 with 2 clubs. I bet 55, feeling good, and they both make the call. This hand feels so straightforward. They either have a club draw or a queen. And speaking of queens, here's another one on the turn. I continue for $185 now. We have a big pot brewing. I don't want Mr. Snoopy to get a read on me. And this is when I decide to mimic Christoph Vogelsang. He makes the call. My disguise must be working because he has no idea I have trips. Eric folds and we're off to a huge river. No club, I say. And bang, the 10 of clubs peels off. Now we check. Mr. Snoopy, what are you going to bet? He makes it $700 to go. I'm copying one of the best players in the game, so I need to make the right decision here. And honestly, I don't think it's even close. I make the fold. Snoopy does not show, but for the vlog, at the end of this video, he'll tell us, so wait till the end to find out what he had.
We're battling here with queen 6 of diamonds under the gun. The Nick game is on, and at 510, it's a $50 bounty. That means if you're the last of the 9 to win a pot, you lose a total of $400, which is brutal. I decide to limp to get involved. Wolfgang limps, and we luckily get to see a cheap flop 4 ways of Jack 5-3 all black. We brick, and when it checks to me, I just can't resist tossing in a bluff to see where we're at, see if we can steal it too. I bet 40. Wolfgang isn't giving up his gutter ball and ace high, and Slick Rick gets in there too with a flush draw. Turns another spade and we are dead as a doornail. When it checks to me, it takes every ounce of self-control within me not to continue blasting. I check and it checks through to the 4th spade on the river. Rick bets tiny $75 now, and again, every degenerate bone in my body is itching to raise here, but I take back control of those urges and give it up. I'm desperate to win a pot, so desperate that 2 hands later we're in the big blind with 8-6 offsuit. Yep, we're going downhill. Slick Rick opens on the button to $75 over the $25 straddle, and when it folds to me, this seems like a spot worth taking with a wider than normal range. Slick Rick should be wide from the button, and if we can win preflop, we scoop up $100 uncontested and save $400 in bounties. So I pounce. I toss in $250, which pushes Wolfgang out of the pot, but Slick Rick has other plans.
Slick Rick with a real hand here.
I want to get some
Just puts him in. Jello Man Jack.
We get caught with our hand in the cookie jar. The very next hand, Wolfgang gets in a massive pot versus Geico and ends up correctly bluff catching on the river, and we're forced to surrender 4 Benjamins to our opponents. Ouch.
This hand we've got a big blind special, king 4 of clubs. Under the gun +1 opens to 30, we are the only caller, and the flop comes 7-6-4 with 2 spades. We check, he checks. The turn is the lovely king of diamonds, big blind special in full effect. We bet $50 and he makes the call. The river is a not so good one. It's the 5 of spades, completes the flush draw, and puts a 4-liner out there. I think check is reasonable here given the run out, but I also think there's value we can get from a non-believing king or all the other 2-pair combos that are now available. So I put out a bet of $100. He thinks for about 1 second and snap re-raises to $300. And this is gross. But the other thing our river bet does accomplish is it lets us know where we're at, and we are almost certainly behind. We make the fold. We are going in to the lion's den. Graduated from there. We're down 700, so we got work to do. But showtime.
We're still stuck in the side game and look down at 7-6 of diamonds with a $25 straddle on. Big game. I raise to $75 and get 3-bet from the cutoff to $225. Aggressive players, I got a pretty good hand. I make the call. Flop comes king 10-9 with 2 beautiful diamonds. I check and he bets $175. Big spot. I put my foot on the gas and raise it to $400. It's a small raise. Sue me. I misclicked. Whatever. He makes the call. The turn comes the ace of diamonds. In one of the biggest games, I turn the flush in a 3-bet pot. I make it $500 to go. If the hijack calls now, I know he has a monster, and he can have so many good hands on this board. He sticks in the call. I'm using my 1 time. Give me a brick, dealer. Wow, thank you. Best card in the deck. I set myself up for this. I am all in. No better feeling in the world than jamming for value, and we get a call. He doesn't show, but he said he had aces. We fade the world and double up in a $4,500 pot. Booyah! The boys got moved up, and I'm finally getting called for the main game. I have momentum, and I'm ready to battle. first hand of the new table is Pocket Jellos. Jack raises first to act, and I immediately come in guns a-blazing with a 3-bet to 100. If he jams, brother, I'm calling. Let's tango. If I win, I'm riding home with Rosie for sure. But Jello folds, and that's a great result for me too.
Our session-defining hand is at the main table, and it is pocket fives. We are under the gun +1, and under the gun is straddled to 25. We limp for 25, and the low jack does as well. It folds all the way to the straddler, who raises to $125. He had the option to just check and go to a flop, so for him to open up the action here, I think he has a really strong hand. And if there's anything that can crack a really strong hand, it's a sneaky small pocket pair. I call, and the low jack calls as well, so we go 3 ways to a flop, which is King Jack Jack Rainbow. Not what we want to see when trying to crack a monster, but we do like to see the under the gun player check. We check, and the low jack checks too. And right on cue, the dealer puts out the 5 of spades, bingo. And better yet, under the gun leads out for $200. I think calling and raising both have merit, and I'd be more inclined to raise if I was out of position to the aggressor. We're in position, so I smooth call. And the low jack calls as well, as we head to a river now with almost $1,000 at stake. It's a brick, an offsuit 4. Under the gun now checks, and it's time to value bet. I select a sizing of around 2/3 pot, and I bet $650. The low jack folds and the under the gun player snap calls. This pot passes $2,000. We show our 5s and he tosses his cards into the muck. He says he had pocket aces and our sneaky 5s cracked them beautifully. You take the breaks when you're down a lot, you take the breaks when you're up a lot. Don't want to go on winner's tilt. 5s are good, but this game is scary. Hopefully we can keep it rolling.
The stream is over, but the cards are still flying, and we are due when we pick up Ace King. There's a $75 open from John. I 3-bet to $250 next to act, and he makes a call. We flop top pair on King 7-5 Rainbow. He checks. I bet $225, and he gives it up. 2 hands later, we've got the Jellos, and John makes it 75 again. I make it 250 like clockwork, and he calls. Flop comes ace 9-8 with 2 spades. He checks, and although I would mostly bet here, I decide to check it this time, give him rope to bluff, which he likes to do when he senses weakness. Turns a 6, and like I expected, John leads out for 300 bones. I didn't check the flop to fold here, buddy boy. I toss in the chips, and the river is ugly. It's a 7, and even uglier, John announces all in for $1,100. It's a gross spot here for a few reasons. One is that John likes to bluff, and the 7's a scare card he certainly would use to put max pressure on a hand exactly like what I have. Second is he might not be jamming 2 pairs for value here, so this really feels like either he's got a straight, maybe a set, or nothing at all. Third is that we have 2 jacks in our hand, making it much less likely he could have jack 10 for the nuts, and we don't have a spade in our hand, meaning it's more likely he could have a busted flush draw. And finally, the fourth and most important reason, it's super late into the night, and John is stuck a lot. Now, if we call and win, we scoop one of the biggest pots in my life. But if we lose, this session will become one of the biggest losses of my life. A lot rides on this one decision, and I decide to make the call. He reaches for his cards and begins to turn them over, revealing ace 10 of diamonds for the straight, and we double him up. Ouch.
Alright, I haven't told you guys what he had in that ace queen hand. Cue the footage. Snoopy, what did you have in the hand? Did you bluff me?
Oh, I had 7 deuce.
7 deuce? Come on.
What'd you have? I had pocket ace.
Ace. All right, nice end. Nice end.
We said it would be a lot, and it was a lot. I was into the game for $3,000, out for $3,200.
There we go. In for $2,600. Got kind of crushed. Out for $660.
In for $3,000, out for $4,650.
There we go.
Big profit. Thanks for watching our biggest high stakes 5-10 game we played together.
I wonder what the net is on all 3. I think that's positive, potentially.
I wonder what the biggest game one we play together will be.
For now, it's this one, and you'll see the next one, I promise you.
Stay tuned. Subscribe. Peace.